friends, and welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Morgan and thank you so much for joining. Today is one of my favorite days ever because we are going to be starting a ton of our seeds. Now this isn't all of them. If you refer back to my video where I kind of talk about when you should plant seeds, that'll kind of show you when I start a lot of the seeds. So I'm going to be starting my 8 to 10 week and 6 to 8 week seeds. Definitely, if you have questions on knowing when to start your seeds, you can go refer back to that video, which I will link above. But today I am going to be planting primarily peppers, chilies, and tomatoes. So if you recall from our onion and then sweet potato slip starting video, these are my favorite ways to start seeds. You can refer back to that video if you want to know kind of how I get these prepped and all of that. But I find these to be super easy. They're a little bit more expensive than just doing soil, but it keeps things kind of organized and keeps all of my plants in one area so I don't get my seeds mixed up or not know what's sprouting or anything like that. So I find this to work best for me, but definitely do the route that works best for you. So as you can see, I went ahead and got all of my seeds soaked. And I started this last night at about 10 o'clock. It is currently 10:30 a.m. And so I let these soak for about 12 hours. I would recommend if you're gonna soak your seeds, you soak them for 12 to 24 hours. I wouldn't go much further than that. And you don't have to soak your seeds. It just helps things germinate a little bit quicker. So last year I soaked all of my earlier seeds, my peppers, tomatoes, chilies, cabbages. Let's see, I think that was primarily it. I soaked those and it just helps get the germination started a little bit quicker. And then your plants that are more like a lettuce or spinach, something that you might direct sow, I don't soak those at all. So just these guys that honestly I find are a little bit harder to grow from seed are the seeds that I soak. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get planting. So as you can see, I do kind of a lot of prep and I make sure things are really organized before I get started. So with every packet of seeds, you will see the packet, so I know exactly what I'm planting, the seeds soaking in water, and then a label. These are the labels that I'm gonna put on our starting soils. That way I know exactly what's being planted where. I'm gonna start off with, I'm just honestly gonna start here and kind of go along the row. Doesn't really matter what order you do it in, but I'm hoping to have enough seeds to be able to do each row, one plant, and then I should have a few extra cells to be able to do some tomato duplicates, just because I know that I need a lot of tomato plants, and honestly I'll probably end up planting more beyond what we're planting today. So all I'm gonna do is just take this, I'm gonna start with my early jalapeno. This is actually some older seeds, so that's why I really wanted to soak these. And these I've had really great success with. They grow pretty quickly. They're not that spicy, or at least I haven't had them be that spicy. Obviously that has to do with water and the heat, but things have been going really well there. So as you can see, I just have this little cup of water and there's just some seeds floating in it. So I'm gonna start over here, and all you do is just pull back the mesh a little bit, and then just kind of, there's already a little hole, but I just make sure I can find it. And as a general rule of thumb, you want to plant the seed about twice as deep as the seed size. So as you can see, like these little cabbages, they are going to be very, very shallow. They're teeny tiny versus, you know, a pepper. It's going to go a little bit deeper. So what I usually do is I just plant 2 seeds per cell. I find that has worked really well. Last year I had really great success with germination. And so if you're not confident on whether the seeds are going to germinate, you can definitely plant more than 2 seeds per cell. But I had great luck doing that last year. And then if I have just like a random amount of seeds left, I'll go back and add them to some of the already filled cells. Here's a look at what they'll look like, and then I'll go ahead and just put a little bit of soil on it. Remember, you want it to be about twice as deep as the seed is big. And then what I do is I just create label like this, and I'll just stick it right here. That way I know exactly what is in this cell and there's no confusion. The labels don't fall off, so that seems to work super well for me. So let's go ahead and get these buried. And then on to the next. Definitely make sure that you are putting your name tag right away after you plant it. I know it seems like, oh, I'll just put the tag on after I do this entire set, like this entire box or something like that. Just don't chance it. It's so hard to know what you've planted if you mess any of it up. So I would recommend just putting the tag on as quickly as possible. And what I like about these tags is I just made them with my labeler and they're super easy to come off. So I reuse these year after year, and I can just pull the tag off and put a new one on the next year. So that has seemed to work really well for me. Next, I'm gonna do this Nova tomato. I grew these last year. They make kind of strange shaped. They're a sauce and paste tomato and they taste phenomenal. We grew a year's supply of tomato sauce, marinara, all of that, and it was primarily out of these. And I'm super happy with the way these work, so we're gonna plant them again. Here's the next one we're going to be planting. This is a slicing tomato, and I've never tried this one. I'm super excited about it. I read that this is like one of the tomatoes, who was it? Burbank, he created this tomato, and this is like the only tomato he would use for slicing and canning and everything. And so I love a good tomato that you can do anything with, and so I'm super excited to give this one a try, and we'll be able to find out together how this one works. So gonna go ahead and get this one planted. Next is this Pomodoro. This is another sauce or paste type tomato. And the reason I am giving this one a try, I've never had this one before either. It's a new San Marzano. I'm probably saying that wrong. I know that I love San Marzano tomatoes. And so I'm super excited to try these. These are also really resistant to blossom and rot. And we had a big issue with that last year. I think the setup I had wasn't giving it enough kind of water movement. So it was getting too much water and then not enough water and then too much water every time I would water it. And so I'm super excited to try this one, and I'm hoping that this one is actually pretty resistant to that blossom and rot. So we will see that together. Okay, and then finally in this tray, we have a Sandia hot chili. I have never tried to grow chilies before, but we love green chili. If you've never tried a green chili, definitely look into it and give it a try. I saw a woman online somewhere, and she was able to grow this exact seed here in Wyoming. And so normally I wouldn't think that we have enough heat or the right climate for it, but I'm gonna give it a try and see. I am super, super excited about these. But we'll see. These might be a total flop, and if that's the case, that's totally fine. But we love green chili, and I think it would be so awesome to be able to make our own green chili out of chilies that we plant. So let's get some of these planted up. And these are from a company called Chili Revival. I think I saw these on someone's blog, and then I want to say I was able to order them off of Amazon. I'm not positive though. Either way, you should be able to just go to Chili Revival and find these seeds. Okay, here's that full tray. I just need to go ahead and bury these 3 rows, and then this one will be done. And then you can see the labels here, and we are done with this first tray. I'm just gonna set this off to the side just to make a little bit more room. And we are gonna move on to the next chili. This is another green chili variety called Big Jim. This one's supposed to be medium to hot, and the last one that we planted was hot. You can see here, green chilies, when they say hot, they traditionally mean a very, very hot, especially when you're just eating green chili as in like the soup or putting it on a burrito. There's not a ton to cool it down. So I'm also going to be planting a mild version of these as well, which I think I'll probably prefer, but we'll see. Hopefully they work. Next is an Ancho pepper. I think I just got this off of Amazon as well. I might be totally wrong, but I think an Ancho pepper is the same as a poblano pepper, and then they're green, that's a poblano, and then when they get really ripe, they turn that purple color, and you can make a really great enchilada sauce or something like that out of the anchos. Definitely correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments, but I don't know why I think that, but I do. So we're just gonna get these ancho peppers planted. Last year we did do poblanos, and I made a lot of stuffed peppers out of them when they were fresh, and then froze the rest, and we've just been putting them in eggs and casseroles and honestly anything and everything, cornbread, and they have been a very pleasant surprise. So I love them, and I'm super excited to be planting hopefully the same thing this year. All right, next is this Numex chili. This is the last chili that we're going to be planting, and this is a mild. So this is the same as all of the other green chilies that I planted, but this will be the mild version, probably the only version I'll be able to eat. But I'm super excited about this one as well. I just love like a roasted green chili with, honestly, you can make the easiest dinners out of them. Just some like cream cheese, cottage cheese, and pheasant, chicken, whatever, some kind of meat, and oh, they make the best stuffed peppers, best green chili. Oh, I'm really like getting myself excited about these, so I really hope they actually work out. Okay. Next, this one's totally random to go in this group. Oop, I better put my label on. Next, we are going to be doing an integro cabbage. So I know I mentioned this in our last video, but I had the worst luck with cabbages last year. They all got eaten by the grasshoppers. We live in aglands, and so there's just a ton of grasshoppers that live in the alfalfa that surrounds us, and so they pretty much all came and feasted on my cabbages. So while I don't think these will probably be a huge success again this year, what I do like about them is it almost, I think, and I could be totally wrong, it almost saved the rest of my plants because they were all of the grasshoppers were so obsessed with eating the cabbage and getting in the cabbage that they left majority of my other plants alone. And so I don't know if that's, if I'm just making that up and that's just in my head, but I kind of feel like they were a good distraction. And so if I need to plant a few cabbages to keep the grasshoppers out of the rest of the plants, I will definitely do that. So again, just 2 of these per cell. You can always plant more if you want. I just feel I've never really had any issues with the territorial seeds. They germinate really well. In my last video with the planting the sweet potatoes and the onions, I'll take you downstairs here in a little bit to show you where the onions are at right now, but I was using old seeds from Territorial, and my gosh, we did not have a germination problem. We have so many onions right now. I definitely overplanted them a little bit, and so I'm just gonna stick with the 2 seeds per, and I feel pretty good about that. And then the final one in this little box is going to be cayenne peppers. I don't think I've ever grown cayenne peppers before, so I'm super excited to try these. My hope is I'll be able to grow them, let them dry out, kind of wrinkle up, and then dry it for cayenne pepper for cooking. That's kind of the main goal with these. So we'll see. I will say one thing that is important to note is soaking your seeds in water definitely makes them a little bit harder to plant just because they kind of stick to you and they're hard to get out of the water. But I would say it is definitely worth it. Oops, dropped one down there. And it just might take a little bit more time, but I think it's time well spent. And you put a lot of time and effort and money into getting these plants to start. So if soaking them for a little bit, and just spending those extra 12 hours makes them successful, I personally think that it's worth it. All right, so you can see here, I have all of them planted in. Now I'm just gonna go ahead and cover them up. Again, remember, don't go too deep, go about twice as deep as they are. in size. And there is tray number 2, all set. Gonna set that aside. And we are on to the next. All right, on to the next. I'm just doing another early jalapeno. That was the first plant that I did. I'm just doing one more because those were seeds from 2020. So I just wanna do seeds from 2022 just to make sure that those come up. We love making salsa. And so I think we would be very sad if we didn't have a lot of peppers for our salsa. We also love doing stuffed peppers, like little jalapeno poppers. I have a video on those. If you want to see how we make our jalapeno poppers, definitely go check that out. They are out of this world phenomenal. So I definitely recommend giving those a try as well. Next is a habanero. I have not grown a habanero. No, I don't think I've ever grown a habanero before either. I will say, while we love, I need to put the jalapeno tag on. While we love jalapenos in salsa, we probably prefer habaneros in salsa just because they are consistently hotter. A lot of times with jalapenos, I feel like you get them in the salsa and then your salsa is not spicy, and we love a good spicy salsa. So we're gonna give the habaneros a try. I know in kind of the off gardening season, I tend to buy habaneros when I'm making salsa. So we're gonna try them this year. Next is these beaver dam peppers. So this one's funny. I have grown these since 2020. Yep, these are from 2020. I never have any issue with them germinating or growing. But I don't know what happens. Every single year I put these out and I don't think I've ever actually gotten the pepper off of these, or I get them mixed up and I think it's a different pepper than it actually is. So this year I'm gonna make sure I'm really labeling it and I actually can trace what peppers are the beaver dam. So while I've grown these since 2020, I couldn't tell you if I like them or not. So we'll be able to find that out together this year and hopefully we have success with them. And the last pepper we're planting today is an Italian peppercini. I grew these last year. They were really super good. They make like a yellow kind of buttery looking pepper, and then that pepper turns red and it becomes super, super sweet, which I was not expecting. So I would probably pull these off when they're yellow still, and then we just canned them up and made jars of pepperoncinis. We really like to use them on roasts in the crock pot, and so that's what we've been using all of ours up this year for. Tray 3 is done. Okay, so I did go ahead and just prep one more container. I do have a lot of seeds left and I don't like wasting them. That is one of the hard parts about pre-soaking, is once you soak it, you kind of have to use it. So I have a lot of tomato seeds left, so I just made one more and we're gonna go ahead and finish up the 2 herbs that I have over here, and then we'll get a little bit more tomatoes and probably peppers planted. So next I'm gonna do cilantro. I find cilantro to be, this is ridiculous, probably the hardest plant to grow. I've never had luck with cilantro. If any of you know any great cilantro hacks, please let me know, because I love cilantro, and like I said, we love to make salsa in the summers, but I just cannot grow it. For some reason, it starts, it looks great, and then it just dies. So hopefully this is the year for us, the year of the cilantro, but boy, we'll see. I would love to be able to grow cilantro. I love cilantro. I know it's either one of those things you love it or you hate it, and I love it, but in the garden, it just does not love me. And then, sure, you can go in too, buddy. This row I'm actually gonna split, so I'm gonna do cilantro and then chives. I'm okay with doing this because they look so different when they're growing. I don't think you would want to do like a tomato and a pepper because obviously you'd be able to tell them apart when they get a little bit older. They start smelling different, but when they start, they look very similar. So I actually have a huge chive plant out in the garden right now. So that's why I'm only gonna do 2 of these little cells worth of chives. My chive plant actually came from my grandma's chive plant, which she's had forever, and it's giant, and it's super successful. So she lives about 4 hours north from me. So I'm hopeful that she's 4 hours south from me. So I'm hopeful that ours overwintered. I'm just not 100% positive it did. So I'm gonna plant a few just to be safe. And fingers crossed that huge plant comes back from last year. Okay, so I still have 4 rows left. In these 4 rows, I'm gonna plant another Nova, another Burbank, another Pomodoro, and then TBD on the peppers. It was a close call. I almost mixed them all up. Golly, Morgan. Okay, and then in this last one, I decided I'm gonna do 3 habaneros and 2 anchos, so you can see how I label. If it'll focus, you can see I label habanero at the top, so I know those are in the back, ancho times 2, so I can remember what the heck kind of peppers I am planting. Okay, you guys, so here we are down in my basement, and this is actually where I have all of my seedlings start. The reason is because, I don't know if you can see back there, but we actually have a pellet stove, and so I use that as all of the heat. We have a wood burning stove upstairs, so when we're running that, I can have the seeds up there if I want, or I can keep them down here. And there's actually those lines at the front of it is a fan, and so it projects a ton of heat, and the heat coming out of it is pretty warm. It gets down here to about 70 degrees all the time, and so the heat coming out is well above 70 degrees. So it's done an amazing job at getting everything warm. So literally all I have set up here is just a few of these grow lights. I got these off of Amazon. I really like them so far. I can definitely link them. They were relatively cheap. And all I need is just some light. So I don't need heating mats because I have this fireplace here in front of them. And so this setup works really well. It's super low cost and I'm super happy with it. Another kind of light solution is I had these last year, and so it's actually the red and blue LED or just lights. And these were like super cheap off of Amazon, and these are what I started all of my seeds with. So literally I set up chairs and an old table that we had in front of the fireplace. I just had these hanging off of the chairs over the plants, and I had everything germinate really, really well. Had huge plants before they were going in to the ground last year, almost too big. And so overall, I mean, I know everyone has super fancy setups, and I would just say do what you can. At the end of the day, they're just seedlings. As long as you're giving them heat and water, they should be okay. Obviously light as well. So as you can see here, I just have these lids on. This helps get the heat in, and then once they get bigger, you can see like this guy, I go ahead and just take the lids off, but keep the lights and the heat on them. You could definitely take them out of some of the heat, but you want to make sure that they're still staying pretty warm. So I thought it would be good to give you an update on how our onions and potatoes are going. So here's our onions right now, and as you can see, they are absolutely thriving. When I mentioned earlier that I might have put a few too many onions in, this is the Ambition that we had planted, and oh my gosh, they are really going for it. Looking at my sweet potatoes, these have been pretty slow, but that's to be expected. As I think you can see, yeah, here, we do have a few roots coming along, and that's on both of the sweet potatoes, so definitely progress is going there. And then this sweet potato has been pretty slow. I'm not seeing any signs yet, but I'm not giving up on it. I have faith. So this is kind of the setup. One more thing I wanted to touch on is just my #1 tip for gardening. If you're just getting into gardening, I know it can seem super overwhelming, and there's a lot of different information, and there's just a lot of things that it seems like you need. My biggest tips is, first of all, only plant plants that you actually eat, and things that you thoroughly are passionate about. So I, in my first garden, planted a lot of tomatoes, some cantaloupes, cucumbers, and beans. And I was super excited about all of those things. Well, by the time the beans came along, I was tired. And so I just let all of those beans go to waste, which is totally sad. But I found out that I wasn't as passionate about the beans as I thought I was going to be. So I could have used that space for something that I was going to be more excited about. So that's just a great example of just make sure that you have a plan for everything that you're planting and stick to a few varieties. I know there's like so many different options of types that you can grow, and just, I would say, if you're going to grow tomatoes, just grow 1, 2, or 3 varieties. Don't get crazy, because then it's hard to keep track of everything, and you can definitely move and try new types throughout the different years. But I just find it really overwhelming sometimes when you have so many different types, and it becomes a lot more expensive because you can buy seeds in bulk and it's a lot cheaper that way. So just a few things to keep in mind. The other thing is just don't get overwhelmed. Start small. You can build up over the years. Start with the things that are most important. So if you have a super sunny window and you've got great temperatures, maybe start with grow lights just to make sure that they're getting enough of that sunlight in the winter. Or if you just have like a box and soil, you don't need these crazy setups. Literally just start small. Don't overwhelm yourself, and just remember, it's for fun, and at the end of the day, that's really all that matters, Every little victory is great, but it's really just for fun. Thank you so much for joining me today. I had a great time, and I hope you did as well. Definitely make sure to subscribe, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.